thousands of jagged pieces on the ground. In its place, a crude yard arm stretches between support towers that once held the exclamation point in place. Hanging from the plank are 5 bodies, strung by their necks. 2 nooses are empty, the bodies visible on the ground. One has simply fallen, the other has been decapitated. Behind the bodies, a sign boasts in bright red letters, "Fun is guaranteed." Reinforcements were called immediately. By the time employees broke their silence and began telling their stories, the media were scrambling and desperate to get on the scene. Unfortunately for Fantastic Fun, Inc., the legal owner of the park, an uploaded video showed National Guard troops entering the park the very day a press conference downplaying the carnage was held. The footage aired side by side on most networks. Details began to emerge, bringing with them a flood of unanswerable, terrible questions. How could a group of survivors, mostly children, commit such terrible acts? How could survivors with the best possible circumstances in which to weather the storm and its aftermath produce the worst possible result? What does this say about our children, ourselves? Is every American teenager just a few short steps away from bloodthirsty savagery? How do we prevent this in the future? Was an American institution that had provided joy to children since the 1970s fatally harmed by this incident, or is redemption possible? Many of these questions are answered in the following interviews, but I will warn you, many questions remain, and the answers I found only led to more questions. I was able to speak with almost all of the key players, from Fantastic Fun Inc. representatives to evacuated employees to rescue crew. And as you've probably heard in the publicity run-up to the release of this book, there are multiple interviews with employees inside the park, as well as interviews with 5 of the 7 members of the infamous Council of Pieces. If there are answers, these are the people who would have them. Yet as I turned this book over to my editor, I felt I understood the events either only as well or slightly less well than I did after the initial news articles had been written and all the trial dates had been set. I knew facts, I knew locations, I knew the players, and I looked into their eyes. With one notable exception, none of these, some very young adults, are monsters. I'm convinced of that. I know now what I suspected then, that a cocktail of immense fear, absolute freedom, rising uncertainty, boredom, and raging hormones turned an amusement park into a tribal battleground. I've read dozens of think pieces that have dissected every aspect of this story, from academics giving thoughtful criticism to take away their phones and kids turn into killers hysteria. I've heard the players describe what they were thinking, and I still can't answer the most awful question everyone has asked themselves. What would I have done? What if I were a scared 20-something, just getting my feet under me, more concerned with my Instagram account than my 401k? What if I had the entirety of human knowledge and experience at my fingertips and were suddenly plunged into the dark ages? What if I were cold and wet and scared and sick and bored to the point of losing my mind? Would I have followed someone? What if that someone asked me to kill? Most of us want to believe that we would have acted more reasonably if trapped in FantasticLand. You would like to believe that you would have hidden, or you would have calmed things, or you would have found some non-violent way to ride out the events that led to so many dead bodies. On some level, we all need to think that about ourselves. So, allow me to share one story before we dive into the interviews. There are many reasons I was unable to interview 19-year-old Alice Barlow, who my sources tell me was an archer for the ShopGirls tribe, one of 7 tribes that formed over the time FantasticLand was cut off from humanity. There were only 4 archers in the entire park, 2 of whom were ShopGirls. Of the 92 bodies recovered, an incredible 34 were killed by arrows. It is possible, albeit unlikely, that Alice didn't fire any of the killing shots. More likely that there were moments, perched on roofs of confectionaries and clothing stores and year-round Christmas shops, when Alice shot arrow after arrow after arrow into the heads, necks,